Hi, I'm going to make sourdough bread, and I started off with making 3 quarts of sourdough starter. And as you can see, it's a soupy mixture. It's bubbly, it's frothy. But in order to make sourdough bread, I only need 2 quarts of sourdough starter. So the extra quart I'm going to save in glass jars in my freezer for later use. I've got some of it poured in. I'll pour the rest in. And I'll keep that in the jar. And I will freeze this for later storage. I don't want to fill it all the way to the top because it might crack in the freezer. Just going to pour a little more. Okay. All right. The rest I'm going to pour in this pan, and I'm going to be adding 13 cups of flour. Slowly, like 1 cup at a time. I'm going to pour it into my big pan like this. Scrape it out. And I'm going to add 2½ tablespoons of coarse sea salt. And I have that right here. So I have 2½ tablespoons of the Celtic sea salt. So that's 1. Add that in. And I've pre-measured it, so it's 2½ tablespoons of this, the Celtic coarse sea salt. And I'm going to scrape all that out. I'll be adding, as I said, 13 cups of flour slowly, and stirring it and kneading it. So we will add 1 cup of water and save and have another ½ cup of water, and we'll be adding that in with the 13 cups of flour. So I'll just add a little bit right now and get out of my freezer flour that I have already ground up and I have stored in my freezer because it saves the flour from losing its nutrients. So I'll be adding, as I said, 1 cup of flour at a time to get all the salt out. Measuring it. And the flour. My first cup, and I will do 13 of those. And this is my einkorn wheat. I'll stir it, and I'll continue to add each cup of flour very slowly. And I will come back and show you where I'm at a few more cups down the road, and I'll show you about that because then I'll be kneading the flour, and it's going to be quite difficult. When it becomes difficult to stir, then I'll start kneading, and I'm going to try to put some of it in my food processor and in my bread machine so it can stir and knead the dough with a little more strength than what I can put into it. Hi, I'm still making the sourdough bread. I've got 2 quarts of sourdough starter and 5 cups of einkorn wheat. And now I've got 8 cups, and I have run out of einkorn wheat, so I'm using a little bit of spelt and a little bit of rye flour. And as you can see, it's getting thick. It's difficult to knead. And I'm going to be using my hands because there's no way a spoon's going to work. I'm going to add a little bit of flour each time. If you remember, I did add 2½ tablespoons of coarse sea salt. You're supposed to use 1½ cups of water with this recipe. So I added a little more water. It's getting a little thick, and you mix and you knead. And it's going to take about 15 minutes to do all of that. So a total of 13 cups of of flour and 2 quarts of sourdough starter. You can see that it gets thicker and thicker. You want all that flour dust to come into it so you have a nice doughy ball. Right now it's a little wet. And we're going to be adding more flour little by little. Okay. So, just a constant knead. After I get this all mixed in there together, I am going to put some in my food processor and in my bread machine and let it do a little kneading too. And I'll come back and show you that. Hi, I finished adding my 13 cups of flour to my sourdough starter, and I mixed, and then I had to knead for 15 minutes. And you see here's my pan, and here I don't feel it's necessary to go into my bread machine or my food processor. So now I'm ready to take this dough and cut it and place it into my well-buttered glass or ceramic dishes. And I'm going to let it sit out with a cover on top, like a paper towel or a cloth towel, for 4 to 12 hours. And then I'll show you the next step, because then we'll bake it. Bake it anywhere from 30 minutes to 60 minutes. You just don't want it to get too hard. But I am going to take a section of it, and I'm going to make 16 soft pretzels. So I'm going to have sourdough pretzels. This is the amount that I'll use. Maybe a little bit more. And I'll come back for that video. Alright, I've taken my knife, I've cut my dough like this, and I've been placing it in my well-buttered loaves, my glass or ceramic pans. And I've just been placing it in here. And once I'm done, then I'm going to take my paper towel, or you can take a cloth towel, cover it. I'm going to let it sit there for 4 to 12 hours. I'm going to take this piece and I'm going to work it into this pan like that. Take my paper towel and cover it. Do the same with this one. I have enough dough in there. Place it in this one. You really do want it well buttered. So it'll be easy to come out. Press it in there. We're going to just let it rise for 4 to 12 hours. And one more. Place in here. This is going to be my big loaf. Alright. Cover that up. Okay. Let those sit there, and then I'll come back and I'll bake it for 30. Hi, it's been about 8 hours since I put my bread over here. Covered it. I've rised a little bit, as you can see. And I'm ready to put it in my oven. Bake the bread anywhere from 30 to 60 minutes. If I bake it too long, it will become a little too hard. So I will be coming back to check it in 30 minutes. And then I'll slice it, and I can put it in the freezer for storage, or it will stay in the refrigerator for a week at 350.